tell my friends stand by me only if I'm right. I come out in triple darkness just to see the light. If I say it once, I guarantee I say it twice. If they want me, I ain't going out without a fight. In my dreams, I'm a killer, but for God, man. Try to play it cool, but it's getting hard, man. Rolling with the real and death to all the frauds, man. Not too many of me, yeah, it's kinda hard, man. In my room, sitting in my room. Know they waiting on me and I'm coming soon. Never been a sellout, never been a coon. Y'all be on the camera acting like I'ma show them how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute.
Welcome to the B2m Crew podcast. We're five brothers who have been friends for over 40 years. Between us, we have 13 children, including 12 sons, and been married for a combined 100 years, getting together to chop it up about our experience as parents, as fathers, and some of the conversations we've shared over the years as brothers. We're just doing this podcast to bring you all into those conversations because we've enjoyed them so much and learned from one another. We're broadcasting here from the Code Building in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia, which is our hometown. I'm joined to my far left over there by James J. Muhammad over there, brother Muhammad.
Blessings.
And we got the world's ambassador, Waki. Anybody that knows him will agree with me that he's the world's ambassador. Joined in the middle over here, my man, Chili T. Talik, all the way from the ATL, holding it down for Win Productions over there. Look at he got his Win Productions gear. Executive produces this show. And my man to my right, John J.G. Yates, Carbham, Searsmont's finest
What up,
over here. And I'm the Wavo Black. And we're happy to be broadcasting to you from this building, which is a wonderful space for small business owners and entrepreneurs, people looking for some special event space. The amenities are great. The building is aesthetically pleasing. And we're happy to be broadcasting from here. And also, this episode is brought to you by Win Productions. I just alluded to Talik. He got his Win Production gear on. They just opened a brand new studio up in Atlanta, or is about to open with a grand opening. We got Win Productions phone number 754-225-2805 for your production needs. Again, that's 754-225-2805. And even though they're in Atlanta, just so you know, if you got a good enough project and the price is right, which is they got great prices, but it's a nice project that they're committed to, trust me, they'll be up in here in an instant. To handle your production needs. Today we're going to talk to you about something that's very, very important for those of you who have children, cousins, nieces, nephews, which is developing the gifts and talents of children and young people and what's important about that. Because, you know, even though we have a lot of goals and aspirations for our young people, they don't get there without our support, some of our guidance. So we want to chop it up today to see what the fellas have done in terms of parenting, in terms of that particular topic. You know, so J-Mo, what did you see as important when it came to developing the gifts and talents of your children?
I guess first and foremost, not to make it so much a God beside God, if you will. You know, to understand and know that they have a talent, but just not to go to the extent to where it consumes them so much so where that's all they're thinking about and that's all they're doing, that's all they're committed themselves to do. Again, making that in essence a God beside God. So knowing that they have, whether it's like a musical talent, that they probably have something even deeper that the God is manifesting for them, only to use that to help them understand and realize that they may have an even more purposeful gift or talent, if you will. For mine, though, as far as I always try to reflect on how that was for me, and if my parents or my mom in this case, though I was, entertaining, if you will, I guess my first audience was my grandmother, that I recall anyway, my grandmother on my mom's side, whereas I used to kind of perform for them. Just mimicking old whatever songs or whatever they were into while they sitting around, maybe drinking or doing whatever, and just entertain her and her friends. I do recall something like that. I may have been about 4 or 5 years old or whatever, and had And then I think in elementary school, I did like some skits or plays or whatever. And if my mother had kind of recognized that and helped me to cultivate that, it makes me wonder, how much different it would have been for me as opposed to, kind of realizing it and taking a stab at it when we did back in the day with Ricky Smiley and stuff like that on the comedic part of it.
Or just cutting up in English class.
Oh, right. Well, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
if that had been recognized by someone that could have allowed me to focus that energy on doing something with it as a career or something like that, it just makes me wonder, because even with the community theater around here, it was like, I think, and I said this in the interview when I was doing my first play, which was Venus. I think
Venus,
it was.
Hot
Yeah,
and Top.
yeah, the Venus. So
Live
it
art.
was like
Yeah,
live
yeah.
arts, yes.
With
I was like,
Teresa?
man, and that was at 30 years old that I was like,
Teresa Dalbeth, shout out. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it was
she
so
taught
first
at
directed.
Prairie View A&M,
Yeah.
leading the audiovisual department out there.
Yeah.
So shout out to sister.
Yeah, Diva Blue Diva Blue, I think.
Hey
People
James,
little.
let me ask you this. So on the Cole side of the family, it's a phenomenal talent. So you had some singers before you. You know what I
Right,
mean?
Uncle,
and I mean,
yeah, my
Uncle
uncle,
Man,
great
and
uncles rather.
Everybody.
Uncle Riley.
Mhm.
So it was some
Mother.
talent there, bro. So did they ever pull your coat, or did Uncle Man come back
Right.
and be like, "Yo, this is what I learned from going to New
No,
York"?
I mean,
this, that,
the
other?
closest thing, of course, when I got with Waukee in ninth grade, and we did the newest edition piece. That was the closest. Well, yeah. Now I'm glad that you brought that up, because Uncle Man at least did try to put us on the track to doing something and create giving us our own identity other than the newest edition. Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
you good.
The newest edition piece, and then try to help us develop and have our own group in the game, be independent of new edition.
You was Sync.
What is it? Sync?
Sync.
Yeah, that's why.
Y'all was sync before NSYNC?
Sync.
Yes.
Yeah.
You was Sync.
Hey, but
Wow.
I wanna back up a little bit, because having been a classmate of James in the 9th grade in Miss Pitt's class, when he used to recite the Jabberwocky and all of this stuff in class, I'm gonna call you out, because you said you wish there was some people that try to steer you. She asked you to be on the forensics team.
Oh,
brother.
don't trip. Don't
She
even
did.
trip.
She asked both.
And she asked both of us.
She
I was
did.
about to say, don't try to exclude yourself.
She
because
asked both of us to be on the
both of us.
forensic team.
to
We were like,
represent.
hey, daughter, what is forensics?
Right.
Right.
And little did we
then
know.
the chorus teacher wanted us to be more serious in chorus class. We actually got kicked out of chorus class.
The chorus.
bro, in the 12th grade. So he was, some of it's on him, is all I'm saying.
Yes, it probably was.
Had other things on his mind.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
So with that, in my experience, we tried at least, again, I hate to make it seem as if it's all on K-Move. However, when he was in middle school, it was, of course, that's when band or whatever was introduced, or to be able to do something instrumentally or musically, although, you could if that's what you wanted to do beforehand, but that's when we allowed him to choose the instrument, and it happened to be the trombone. And so it was cool that he had at least that gravitation towards that, but I didn't necessarily see that as his natural or innate gift or talent. However, we just tried to support him in every way to make sure he had, instruments and what he had to do, make practicing to get better and whatnot. But JG, I don't think that was an unaired episode where people share, for you to share what you how you said I kind of kept you from
Yeah.
pursuing
Hey, that's the
your-
blind leading the blind type of stuff. I 6th grader giving the 5th grade advice on how to move forward in the future. What
So-
classes to take.
So what happened, JG? What was it? Share that, please. Share the story.
James came down to grandma's house. I live with my mom and grandma. James came down one Sunday, right? And James is at Burley. I'm like, you at Burley for real? He said, yes, I'm going there next year. He said, for real? I said, yeah, because we had never went to school together, right? And James said, look, Once you get to Burley, you got two choices. You can take band, or you can take exploratory class. In band, you play an instrument. But exploratory class, you're gonna learn French, Spanish, boom, boom, boom.
Home ec.
Or you can take band.
What
You take home ec, you're gonna sew a pillow, you're gonna make a lampshade. You know what I mean?
Clearly underselling band.
Yeah. Or you can take band.
Yeah.
Man, so I'm like, I'm taking exploratory classes. You know what I mean? Man, messed up my musical career. I was supposed to have been a drummer. Yeah, man. You know, I ain't had nobody put me in no lessons or nothing like that. You know what I mean?
Hey, Joaquin,
So we all
Yo.
that's hilarious because we chose it all for the wrong reason.
Right.
I was trying to find out what the young ladies were signing up for.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Crazy. Joaquin, you know, we were young fathers. All of us were young fathers together, right? You know, and then, you know, your father passed early for you all.
Yeah.
You know, y'all was young. And all of us kind of was interested because we were all pretty mature about wanting to be good fathers, though. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we're serious about that. You get this, and then nothing is more beautiful, man, and amazing than when you get your first son, when you have a son, right?
Sure.
What went through your mind in terms of developing gifts and talent when you had this new life that you had fought?
Wow. The first thing I thought was, hey, buddy, your life is over. That's the first thought I
For
had.
you?
For me.
Okay, got
I'm
it.
like, your life is over.
Yeah.
It's all about this new little person. I wish I had someone in that moment to say it's about developing his talents and gifts and not your talents and gifts. I wish I would have had someone say that to me in that moment.
I told
that
you.
It's about
You just tell him that
It's
today.
don't make him into what you
Joaquin, point two.
want him to be. Yeah, exactly. You actually look and observe and develop his talents. But I didn't think that. Like when my son was born, I'm like, all right, this is what we gonna do. He gonna be an NBA basketball player, and this is how it's going down. We going to 5-star camps at 10 years old. We gonna do this. We gonna do that. Like I had it all laid out in my mind.
Yeah.
How ridiculous is that now? And for a while, bro, that's the plan we was on.
Right.
Like that was the plan we were on. Oh, he was balling in the 4th grade. Yeah, you know what I mean? He was good, you know, but obviously other things come into play, you know. So as they start to age, the one thing I understand now is that their gifts and talents will get developed oftentimes based on exposure, moments like band or exploratory,
Right.
moments like, hey man, why don't you come play football with us? Moments like, hey man, a coach come get you and say, hey man, join my baseball team. You know, I just think, you know, gifts and talents get developed through exposure, because I think, you know, like now that I'm an athletic director at a school and I see kids that run cross country, I'm like, oh my gosh, I had a ton of kids that would have been phenomenal cross country runners. But that's my exposure to it now. I never had that before, you know? And so I just think it's, you know, watching them, seeing what they're good at, seeing what they're passionate about,
Right.
seeing what they start to do on their own without your encouragement. You know, what are they doing without your encouragement? And when you start to see that, that's when some things will come to the surface. And well, you know, I'll talk more about, you know, how we did that later on, but that was super important for my fellas.
Gotcha. John, did you recognize gifts and talents early in your children? And if so, what did you do about it? Or if you didn't recognize it, when did you think that was an important thing?
Right. I think when you first asked about, you know, when your child was born, right, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm overwhelmed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. And
so again, I go back to the foundation. Everybody's different. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, right? Innately. What gifts are you born with? So I'm thinking all I can do is give you a foundation, try to give you a solid foundation to be in a safe environment and to expose you to as many different things as possible. You know, we've been talking about sports and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
And we all love sports, and we use that as an analogy. And the same thing though applies for managing money academically and having him be exposed to things that I wasn't exposed to, you know? And so just using the sports analogy, football, basketball, played baseball, lacrosse, wrestled. So I'm introducing him to all of that, right? Hopefully he'll find a passion. And then my son dance. He still loved to dance. So early on, Andre loved to dance, right? That's his thing. Hip hop dance, or however you want to, like Chris Brown type of thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, so that was his passion. And so I was like, all right, so let's go into the school, you know what I mean? And try to learn how to dance, because I can't teach you all that. I can teach you two-step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's not even a two-step. You just stay still and wiggle a little bit.
Exactly. So, man, you know, I think the thing is everyone's born with strengths and weaknesses, man. You got to give them that foundation of love, of discipline. So whenever you do find what you are passionate about, you do have that discipline to develop even further. I tried to expose them to music. I wish they had picked up an instrument. I should have pushed that harder. All of these, mind, body, and spirit. You know, the body's athletics. That's still a discipline. The mind is the books, the mental stuff. You know what I mean? And mind, body, and spirit. So I just want to introduce them and hopefully identify what they love and then just push and encourage along the way.
Yeah, Talik, what's interesting about, shout out to Tyreek, iHeart Media's finest, our executive producer on iHeart, on Fatal Attraction, in media. At a young age, he published a book. I just have a hard time believing how he got there without you recognizing some gifts and talents. So how did that shake out, and what made you provide the support, or how did you look at how you wanted to develop him?
Always, Tyreek was sharp at a very, very young age. He was one of those kids that never, ever put his shoes on the wrong foot. You know, he was one
That was
of
the beginning to let you know he was gifted.
Yeah.
Teacher put on the
Come on,
report
get
card,
back.
Got his daggone
I
shoes
never
on
have
his
to
back.
fix his shoes. That's on his
Yeah.
report card.
You know, he when he was
That's a good observance, though.
when he was young, he always, it was funny because Joaquin can't stand fooling with little kids, right? And my mom used to talk to him on the phone all the time. Like literally when he was 2 years old, he could complete a sentence. I mean, like he could talk very well at a very young age. And so we seen all the stuff that he was, and then when at one point, I don't know how old he was always talking about, I'm a genius. And matter of fact, when he was like, I don't know, 8 years old or something, I think he had his own Facebook then or something. And his tag was some genius or something, you know. And so he always at a very young age knew or had self-confidence that he was talented.
Did you call him a genius first? Or he came up with that.
Nah, I didn't never call him a genius. I never called him a genius. I always said, make sure you know how to spell it if you running around here talking.
That's
And
good.
so
Right.
when I said that, it was like the next day he was spelling it, you know.
Dang.
And so it was one
determination early.
Yeah, so it was just one of those things, because if you run around here calling yourself a genius, a whole lot of people gonna call you out, you know, and see if you live up to that. And so at a very young age, man, he always knew, and it was only two things. He never ever said he wanted to be a firefighter. He never said he wanted to be a police officer. He never said the typical things that most kids do. He never ever said any of those things. He always wanted to be a judge and attorney, very young. And then I don't know, maybe when he was about 10 or 11, he knew that he wanted to be in the journalist world.
Okay.
So
Wow.
he always was focused. I never ever thought he was gonna be some basketball player or football player. Never, talents weren't there. You know what I mean?
Hey, was that because you had Joe Mathis on TV and Joe Brown?
You know,
Instead of Joe Johnson.
you know, the funny thing was he was watching stuff, and then he said, well, you know, who's in charge? So I did watch those court TV shows, but he said, who's in charge? And I think he liked the idea how they dressed, how they was in charge, how they was presenting ourselves, and he always wanted to be somebody of authority. And you know, my wife and I explained to him who run the courtroom. Because at first he wanted to be a lawyer, and then just like what I said earlier,
That man is God up there.
That man is God up there compared to, you know, in that room, right? He made all the things lay down at him. And so I told y'all once before, we took him out to Seattle and exposed him to a judge and spent some time with him. And he came back, he was like, Dad, I don't know if I really want to do that or not. And I said, well, you know, I took him to the courtroom. He's like, nah, I want to do something different. I was like, all right, cool. Just let me know. And so, boom, journalist next. You know, he wanted to, you know, write a book and stuff. So he was always new. It wasn't a whole lot of moving around. And when he locked in on it, he was focused. Yeah. And his whole, like, nobody got to motivate him. You know, he motivated himself. You know, when he first started his show, came home, you rearranged the whole room. Boom, you know, he in front of the camera. Like I said before, there's 1,000 people watching him. Can't even see his whole face, you know. And so he always was locked, focused, knew what he wanted to do. And it was just easy, you know. Yeah. All we did was rallied around him, supported him, told him if he really, really extremely serious when he turned 18 years old, we was going to back him, put the money, get the LLC, turn it into a business. And we let him do his thing.
We at Win Production.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, man, because back to when we first, and that's why I posed that question in the beginning, Joaquin, like when my oldest son was born, you know, most people, you know, we gonna name him Corey Jr.
Yeah.
We do that a lot, right?
People ask me that.
And I know that was the first thing for me recognizing his individuality. I was like, you're not me. He's not me. I don't want him to have my name. First of all, my name is Scottish. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't want him to have that anyway. But I was like, no, I want him to have his own identity, right? And then because I was in education and working with children, I was keen because I had paid attention to the academic gifts in others, people's children, that I was keen to look for what does he seem strong in. Like when Tyreek, being a former English teacher, when Talik said he was using the word genius and he said, don't do it unless you can spell it. If he went and spelled it the next day, I was like, yo, he's gifted verbally. Okay. I need to stare that. I need to feed that. I need to challenge that. So I was looking for academically where I saw strengths and weaknesses, because that's important. I encourage every parent to do that. Stop just looking at the report card. Oh, you got all A's, girl, and man, he knocking it out. He go $30. No, you need to look at that as a gift, potential strength. If you see a consistent pattern and a teacher's telling you, oh, he's an excellent writer.
So when you get that report card, what should you be looking for? As you know, not just the A's and B's. When you get that report card, what should you be looking for?
You're looking for trends. And behind the report card, you're looking for the teacher's comments about it. Even on a paper that they bring home. And it says, you write excellent essay, excellent ideas. You need to be involved at that level because those are insights into the gift behind the grade. You know what I'm saying? And so Amir was like that, and they were like, he would make up words when he was a kid, right?
Okay.
Like he said one day he said something, oop, I almost vominated. You know, vominated is not a word.
Right.
But that's a sign of a gifted child.
Yeah.
They makes up words. So, but I was in education and knew that, right? So I would pay attention.
And the beauty of it made sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
What does it mean to have vominated?
Yeah.
He almost threw up and did something else at the same time, or he gave it a different.
He just said I almost vominated.
Into a verb.
Yeah, he just made it. He was trying to make it past tense instead of he didn't know vomited. So I vominated. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but I knew it was a sign of a gifted child. And then what happened was, when we were seeking the private school and he had to take the assessment to get in, I got his IQ scores, and they were extremely high in some areas, and so I also learned something from that. What areas he was strong and weak, right? So it's interesting that you got to pay attention to that. And so then he also liked TV a lot, right? When he was young, and so when he got into high school, and he was like, I don't know what electives I want to take. And I was like, you always analyzing movies and talking about this character and all of that. Why don't you look at media production? Because they do that type of stuff. They write shows. You like to write, they create shows. And he took his first multimedia class in high school. And I sit here today to say he has a master's degree in media production.
Oh, wow.
Do you understand what I'm
And
saying?
editing our show.
Yeah, and all I did was I didn't push it. I was just like, you might want to check that out
Yeah.
because you like that stuff. But they don't always know what it is or the pathway to get there.
Yeah.
Like he didn't know it was media production. Do you understand what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
Right.
And then one opportunity that I missed though was to Talik's point about the judge. Jeremiah one day was sitting around, we were talking. He said, do judges have security? I was like, really? Not really. Like, they really don't. Like,
You
most
mean like
judges,
bodyguard type?
yeah,
of
yeah. He was like at
Okay.
home. I was like, nah, usually, you know.
'Cause
I
you
said,
think
people
he
might
like
not
people
know where
like-
they live, but they don't typically have security at home that I know of. I missed that opportunity. Even though I asked him, I said, why you want to be a judge? And he was like, nah. But he wasn't being honest. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I should have did what you did and taken him to a courtroom, because what I did know was he was an old soul already. I already knew he was an old soul and was wise. He was like 5 years old. We took him to the doctor, and the doctor said, he's going to be a very wise man. And it was just his disposition.
Wow.
And he was observant. You understand what I'm saying? And so those types of things that we hear, not just that we see, that other people see, we need to feed that. And he's doing great, got a college degree, all of that, but he could have been a judge. You know, no, I'm just saying. And then with Haki, I've told this story about him with music. He came to me, I want to be a rapper. I said, you got to be a writer first. So he writes a rap and takes it to his teacher in second grade or something. And I didn't even know he had done it. And she brought it back. She said, he wrote me a rap. Well, whatever. Then he get in the fourth grade. I want to make my own rap. Well, you got to write a song. And the song has to have a hook. That's what a hook is and all that. He brought me a song back. I want to hear myself record. I just kept going the next step to feed it. And then he ends up becoming, you know, he's not famous, but he's a very talented writer and make good music, right?
And his song opens our show.
And his
That's right.
song opens the show. And now,
Excellent.
really, I would say the pandemic sort of, there's been a pause on it, but he's back in his bag. You know, now he has the business side too, because he went to major entrepreneurship in college. And now he's set up another LLC to finance his own career because he knows it's all about marketing now.
Oh, I love it.
But anyway, it's just about finding out what that gift is, man, and being able to financially and willing to financially invest and exploring it with them beyond, because we'll pay money for AAU and football in a minute.
All day.
You understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
And even I get on myself for
Good
not
point. Good
Yeah.
point.
seeking out, like John said, I expose them all, football, basketball, baseball, wrestling. Even I can say, I didn't say computers, engineering, robotics. I didn't do that
Right,
part.
right.
And we need to do that because not all of our children are going to be athletes. We still operating off of the Jay-Z lyric, all us blacks got is sports and entertainment. When most of our children are going to end up gifted in something outside of that,
Exactly.
and we got to be keen to fuel it. So a question that I have is, when you did recognize what they wanted to do, and Joaquin, when we all got to that age where we was parenting, we was trying to live through our children
Yeah, for
in
sure.
some ways, right?
Yeah.
But when they got to the point where you found out what did they want to do, how did you balance knowing what it takes to get there versus giving them space to still be a kid? Because when somebody announced, I want to be this, you know it takes a hell of a lot of work to get there. So how did you support that part of the whole initiative?
Him or just anybody?
Anybody.
I'll take it.
and I'll answer after you do.
Oh, okay. One thing I had an eye open, you know, and I was always watching and engaging in my son, and so, you know, whatever he did, I will be right there, and I will, you know, I will let him know, and then I will let him know, hey, if you want to do this, you gotta boom, or I'll start coaching him, you know, and I would just say it. I won't ride his coattail. I won't keep on making sure he done this and that. I want to see how much initiative he do on his own, because I'm not gonna. I can motivate you once the engine going, but I'm not gonna sit here and babysit you.
Mhm.
You know, because that requires too much work. You know, so
So you saying you all in when you see he all in?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know, I mean, you know, one of those things is, you know, to your point, like when you was talking about your son, like when you know, you told him you bought him a little recorder, you
Mhm.
know, some
Learn how
old
to
school
write
stuff,
first, a step
right
to it,
first,
and then I take you the next step,
right.
and I'm gonna support
And so the thing is, I'm like, look, I ain't gonna dump a whole lot of money, but I'll do this for you.
Right.
And then when you get that, and I see like, man, you the master, then I'm gonna invest some more and keep on investing, and then we here, you know.
Now you about to open a studio.
Right.
Right.
So that's been another investment, you
Yeah,
know. So just buying furniture for the studio, you know, getting more equipment, just a ton of things that go into taking it to the next level, and
Right.
that's where we at now.
Yeah.
You know.
Anybody else?
No, for me, I coached AAU basketball for 18, 20 years. Coach Pop Warner football, and you guys have heard me tell this before. When you coach kids in sports, you often hear the adults around them when you ask them what they want to be, and they always say basketball player, football player. And I always said the dream killing adults would always tell them to get a plan B. Part of what I did with my young sons is I put the onus of them discovering their talents on them. So I always, became very cognizant of the fact that, hey, I got your plan B. It's your job to come up with plan A. And whatever you say A is, that's what we're going to do. So if you come to me and say, Dad, I want to be a comedian, bet. Let's go. Let's get you an agent. Let's go to New York, LA, whatever we got to do. If you say, Dad, I want to be, whatever it is you want to be, once you discover it, because you've discovered it, not me. Once you tell me what it is, we're going all in. So when Darius came to me and was like, I want to be an entrepreneur, obviously he had been exposed to a lot of business stuff.
I was about to say, at what age did he say that?
Darius ain't had no choice.
Darius was 11 years
I was about
old.
to say because he
He was 11 years old, and he used to keep a notebook. And I found his notebook, and he had created a mobile home business, and he was gonna put mobile homes on land, and he had actually contacted people and found out a company that would transport mobile homes and all kinds of. I'm like, yo, you did this?
He was ahead of the tiny house craze, right?
Yeah, like he was 11 when he did that.
Yeah.
I remember one time he had created a investment stock account on, like, I don't know, E-Trade, I don't know what it was, one of those websites. Might have been Share Builder. That was the name of it at the time. Share Builder. He then created a page and created an account, and he traded. He 10, and I called and shut it down. I called and shut it down because I think it was taking some automatic withdrawals. And the lady was like, yo, 10-year-old did this? I'm like, yeah. She was like, okay,
You should have let him keep taking it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he was just always like, I'm going to be business. That materialism, that money and all that stuff, he was on that young. He was like, I got to get me some money. I gotta do this. And so, through being exposed to entrepreneurship, he was like, well, that's what I want to do. So when he said that, anytime he was coming up with business ideas, we would have conversations. We would look at videos. I would send him examples of business people, and just being around all of that to expose him.
How young was he when you had him scalp?
7.
7.
Everybody started at 7.
Yeah.
So early on.
7.
Wow.
Yeah. Selling tickets at 7 years old.
Yeah.
And so that developed all of his talents. But then when Kari at 14 came to me and was like, I want to be a professional gamer, I'm like, man, go ahead with that. But then I had read Malcolm Gladwell's book where he talked about the 10,000 hours and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I know he done put in the time. You know,
I'm so
and
glad.
so
I'm so glad you read that book, man.
I'm
yeah,
telling you, yes.
Because you could have lost your relationship with him over that.
right, exactly. And you know what? A lot of parents have. When we go to these Call of Duty events, my wife and I often are some of the only parents who are there supporting their kids.
Yeah.
Because, and one of his buddies actually said to me, when I was playing football, my dad would buy me cleats, would buy me whatever I asked for. And now that I'm doing this, they don't even come to any events. This kid is a great player, you know? And so, but we and my wife made a conscious decision when Kari said that's what he wanted to do. That's the moment we made a conscious decision to allow him the time to play. I'm like, you cannot be elite. My son probably one of the best 75 players in the world at this game.
Wow.
Like, say 100 people in the world. He probably
Well,
one
you
of the
know
best.
what? When he goes all up into the success, at least he won't have that Heisman Trophy Day speech where they get the black athletes out there and they say, you know what, it was rough dealing with my dad growing up.
Right.
He really wasn't there, but you know, shout out to mom.
Yeah, right.
Because you could have been toxic and then like, man, ain't no
Once
video
again,
game.
that would have
like,
been me wanting them to do what I want them to do
Right,
instead of letting them do. And that's but as a parent, when I said to them, "Hey, I got your plan B, you come up with plan A," that really take pressure off of you too.
Yeah.
For trying to know what's
Let me
best
ask you
for
this.
them
Can
all
you
the
tell
time.
that story that you shared with me? And I hope you can tell it without revealing anyone about the mom and the son and his dream versus her expectations.
The Iron Man thing or whatever.
Yeah, the runner.
All right, he wanted to be a triathlete or something like that.
I think that's a powerful exple of what you're talking about.
Yeah,
if you can find a way to share.
I was having the same conversation with someone. And telling her, you know, about, you know, my sons and how they were doing what they were doing. And she was like, "Oh, wow, that's really interesting." And she was like, "You know, if I could get my son, he graduated from college and all this stuff, but he's just not quite sure where he is." And I said to her, I said, "You know why?" And she was like, "Why?" I said, "Because he knows you want him to do one thing, but he wants to do something else. And because he doesn't believe he has your support, he pretty much doesn't want to really do any of it."
Shut down.
And so from that moment, she said, "You know what? I'm going to have that conversation with him." She went back, had that conversation with him, and now he and was like, "Hey, I'm going to support whatever it is you want to do. I'm behind you 100%. He was 20-some years old. She was like, "I'm behind you 100%. And from that moment, she said their relationship changed. She actually sent me a text message where her son was like, "Thank you so much, Mom. I appreciate what you're doing for me." I think he might have been running in Arizona, and now he's had races in different parts of the world.
And earning a living from it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But more importantly, and I remember sharing with her at the time, I said, he doesn't have to accomplish what he wants to accomplish before he will find happiness. He will find that happiness as soon as he gets on that journey, pursuing what it is he wants to do.
That's good.
And so when young people are on their own journey, you don't have to wake them up and say, "Hey, let's go to the gym." You got to tell them, "Hey, enough of that. Come on in the house."
Right.
You know, listen, my son is a professional gamer, one of the top 100 players in the world. If you're going to be that good, you know how many hours and hours and hours it is required to be an elite level player on that level? It's tremendous. So if I got to make you practice that much, this ain't going to work.
Right.
You have to have the inner drive to do this yourself. But you know why you got the inner drive to do it yourself? Because you discovered your plan A, not me.
Isn't that the point of what we should be talking about? And John, I got a question for you after I make this quick point. Is because you said a key word that none of us said. None of us said. I wish so much that somebody had told me, pursue what makes you happy.
Yeah.
As opposed to pursue something to go get this bread. You can make this much money doing this. You can make this much money doing that. You can do this. You can do this. If somebody were to say to me, pursue what makes you happy, it takes us 20 years after not doing it to figure out that's what we need to do.
Right.
Is to just be happy. You understand what I'm saying? And because what makes you happy, therein lies your gift.
Yeah.
Yes.
Therein lies your talent. You know what I'm saying? So John, what's your message to your sons about finding happiness in a career if you had one, or how do you try to steer them towards that, man? Because ultimately that's the goal.
Yeah, I'm going back to the dancing thing, right?
Uh-huh.
So when Dre was in college, he met a buddy that's a phenomenal musician, right? Sing, rap, write music, play instruments and everything. That's his homeboy. They still stick partners. And man, I wish I need to know his Instagram. But anyway, they still boys, right? And so once they graduated, I probably, and this is what I wish I had done differently. Like, yo, y'all get a bus and just go across the country, book some shows, chase your music. Dre, y'all work together and go do it. This is a time in your life when you got no kids, no bills, no nothing. You know what I mean? And really go push that thing. Alexander Mack, that's his boy name. He's still making music. He's still, he's excellent. And I wish I had been more aggressive with that and be like, nah, y'all take a year, take 2 years, pursue this, because you're never gonna regret pursuing. You can always come back to this stuff, right? And that's what I wish I had done.
So why didn't you? That's the question.
Right.
Why didn't you do that?
Right. I don't know. Not having, you gotta have, just
funds.
Yeah, maybe
Resources.
Funds, or because I would have been much more assertive with it.
It really don't even matter. It's just like I tell the kids all the time. There are a million excuses.
Yeah.
Pick one. Anyone will suffice.
I tell you a good one that we use,
What's that?
and I'm not just talking about John. It's not that we use, but it is fear.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We afraid for them. Like when you say take off and go across the country, then you think about all the other stuff. But is he gonna be all right? Is he gonna do this? Is he gonna do that? And it's our own fears though.
Right.
You know the quote, they had it in the Coach Carter movie, and it's attributed to Mandela, but I don't think Mandela was the first one that said that our greatest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is a thing. You can fear taking that leap, and unless you take the leap, you never get to what you ultimately want to do. And as parents, our own fears, man, them people ain't gonna be buying no music. I'm glad I went there because it made I was thinking about something earlier. Remember in the autobiography of Malcolm X,
Right.
when he was a great student and smart in the middle school, and he told the teacher, it was a white teacher in Nebraska, I want to be a lawyer. And she said, why, Malcolm? Your people will never hire you as a lawyer. And my people aren't going to hire you as a lawyer, but you would make a good carpenter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
The dream killers.
The dream killers. They real.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
They good too.
Yeah, and so we do that though to our own children. And that, by the way, I've been in education. Don't you let these people, you better deprogram your children when they come home. Don't you let them tell them what they got a possibility of being. I've heard people try to steer me into, not that I have an issue with the trades. Why don't you go to K-Tech? Here I am, a great writer. You just want me to go to K-Tech to get me out of the building because I'm acting up. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, don't you got to deprogram your children, figure out what other people are telling them. But don't be a dream killer because of what you couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? Because of what we couldn't, like our parents' generation, you get a job, you graduate from high school, you go work at the plant for 30 years, same job, you never move up, and you retire, and that's a good life, right?
That's the story.
And then what they told us, you know what? Go to school so you can major in business. All of us came out of high school talking about we're going to major in business management.
Right.
In the 80s. That's what they told everybody.
Yeah.
Business management, right?
Just trying to keep us off that assembly line.
Yeah. That's a better job. What you doing? Like,
Yeah.
And so now, like older people, when I look at my sons, right, they like, when you tell them, he switched jobs. Man, why does he keep on switching jobs? Man, he better stay on that good job.
Yeah.
He left that job for less money and this and that because you get the good job and you good. That's it, right? And I tell my son, nah, man, I say it's like Frogger. Remember the game Frogger?
Yeah.
If you see that log moving fast and you can jump on it, jump on it. I don't care, switch logs, do whatever to get to the top. Because it's
Yeah.
just a new time, man, and they don't have to be restrained by our fear of what we think they supposed to be. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Couple of points. To your very point of which you're speaking of, one thing I told my sons as they were growing up, I said, when you think about your life and whatever it is you would like to accomplish, okay, I need you to understand, if you want to do anything more than what you see I have done, then you absolutely must learn when not to listen to me.
Yeah.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because I recognize as a parent that we as parents can make the mistake of putting our own limitations on our children.
Yeah.
You know, and through our fears and through our traumas of our successes or lack thereof, we can start. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You know what?
Telling
If
them
you
what they
want to
don't
do
wanna do,
more
yeah.
than me, you had better learn when not to listen to me.
Right. Right.
Because I'm gonna give you from my frame of reference. You know, and so for my kids, I'm just like, hey, go for it. You know, don't worry about, you ain't got to worry about tripping on what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, but the key thing for me is teaching them how to fail.
Mhm.
We got to learn that we have to, as adults, teach our young people how to fail, because that's what keep people from really pursuing their dreams, is their fear of failure.
Yeah.
And so we as adults had a responsibility to teach them how to fail, how to pick themselves up, wipe themselves up, get up off the mat and go at it again. If you choose something and you don't like it, choose something else. You know how many people 50 years old right now sitting around talking about they don't know what they want to do?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's funny.
Like, that's real.
Yeah.
And why? Because they paralyzed. And I'm like, you don't have to know what you want to do. Just pick something. And if you don't like it, pick something else. And if you don't like it, pick something else. And if you don't like it, pick something else. Teach your kids that there is no such thing as failure, only quitting.
Right.
No such thing as failure, only quitting. Because if you learn the lesson, there's a blessing inside that lesson. So when whatever happens to you, take the lesson, look for the blessing, move on to the next thing.
Keep on moving.
Keep on moving.
Listening to you, I was thinking about shit.
Huh?
Amen. That's
Amen.
right.
Go
Amen.
ahead,
We gotta
Wyatt.
say it. I remember and Tariq, he first got his driver's license, right? And he didn't want you really to tell him nothing. He thought he knew everything.
Gave
About
And,
driving?
yeah, he thought he knew
Yeah,
everything.
I got the license. What
And,
else I need to know?
I got
And
the
look,
license.
Yeah, I passed the
he
test.
had his first accident.
Not first.
And I said, congratulations, right? And he was all upset. I said, way to go. You know, good job. Like that, right? He was so mad with me. He was looking at me like I was crazy. But I knew by him having an accident, it was going to humble him.
Mm.
And he
You know
learned
what I
something
mean?
from
And
it.
I needed him humble. And I
Because he
needed,
won't listen.
he wasn't listening. And I knew the beauty was he was safe. He didn't get hurt. Right?
Didn't cost him his life.
It didn't cost him his life. But the other beauty was his car was damaged in the front and he could still drive it. And I could fix it just like that, right? And I let him drive 6 months like that to penetrate in his head. You know what? You're going to think so many times, because I could have fixed it the next day, you know? But matter of fact, you're going to fix it, right? You're going to pay to get it fixed. And I want you to ride around in it because I want him to feel that pain. I want him to be responsible next time. I want him to be wise and don't think he know every day.
To Joaquin point, sit in the failure.
Sit in it.
Yeah.
And right now, excellent driver. I mean, like his whole life changed just like that. And I really just give that credit to, just letting him sit in it and not covering it up for him and
Not fixing it
too fast.
What about the second accident, though?
No, it was just one. I know
Oh,
I
okay,
said it like
okay,
that, but
okay.
that was his first.
Okay. Well,
You know what I
hopefully,
mean?
it's his only one.
Right. Yeah, that was his only one.
Gotcha.
But he's an excellent driver now. And, he drive all over by himself. But but that right there taught him a valuable lesson, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James and John, y'all still got young people that's in college, in between, in college, transition, whatever. How do you deal with, we've been talking about how to develop gifts and talents. How do you deal with, I don't know what I want to do? How do you parent through that? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to do. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's a thing too, right?
Yeah, I mean, Joaquin took my words because I said it don't matter if you don't know. Just make a decision. Pick something.
Okay.
Pick something.
Okay.
What are you interested in? Pick something, and like you say, see through it, right? And like you say, if you don't, there's no such thing as failing. You say it's quitting. I was like, it's no failure. You just move on to the next thing, and that's why earlier I talked about when our children are born with certain talents and gifts, we just try to instill discipline in them. So when he does find it, and they do know what to do, you know, they're gonna have the
You
discipline.
got the
too.
skills. Yeah.
Yeah. And so man, I'm having it right now. It don't matter what you want to do, son. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But going back into what we talked about in the previous episode, he's looking at majoring in what his brother majored in.
Okay.
What his oldest brother majored in. And so I'm like, why you want to do that? He's like, it just sounds good, feel good. You know, but I know that's what his brother's been financially successful.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And so that's cool, but I still want him to say, that's fine. Let's go for it. But still, what are you passionate about?
Yeah,
You know, so
yeah.
that's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
And you know, just trying to get him to do what he loves. And
What do you think he good at? What talents you see in him?
bro, hey, I think he's very intelligent, you know. And you know how our kids are with us and how they are with their crew.
Sure.
You know, it's different kids, and sometimes
Absolutely.
you live with them your whole life, and they, you know, when I see him, I'm like, man, my little baby grown, you know, because it's my youngest.
Right.
You know, and I knew it was coming, but I'm still in my
Yeah.
feelings a little bit. And
Yeah.
hey, my son going to the prom tonight. Love you, bro. Be safe. Have fun.
Congrats, John.
You know, and so it's still, I knew it was coming, but it's a transition for me too. But again, man, I think he's intelligent. I mean, again, academically with math and numbers, he's excellent at that. You know, again, just trying to find his way. And obviously, if he's gonna major in business marketing, that's a good field for him.
Okay.
You know?
What about you, J-Moo?
Looking back on when K-Moo, when we first started to teach him to read, okay, I know I wanted him to appreciate reading much more than I did, because I used to hate reading when I was coming up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I mean? I did
Yeah,
not. So I wanted him to have a love for reading, and so that kind of put him on the path of at least designed to read, other than, you know, whether it's comics or something like that. But to read, whether it was fantasy or whatever, for him to read. And so that also had, and we had him in what is it, Odyssey of the Mind, I think, something like that, with critical thinking and that sort of thing. We had him in those sorts of things in elementary school up through middle, and then that's when the band and whatnot. And I think when he seemed to have an appreciation of, you know, we all may give our children Legos, right, or something like that to build. At least I did, you know, for him, and saw that he likes to build. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe he wants to be an architect. You know what I'm saying? And so I think where I failed in that is not doing enough research in that, if that's what I wanted to kind of, you know, sway him into going towards, I should have done more research as to the path to doing that, and then had him in things that were related, such as
Right.
design and drawing, or what, you know what I mean, and
Right.
things that would kind of put him in that path, and have him to develop an appreciation for it, to maybe become a passion, or to see if that was truly his gift or talent. So I think then once it came to him finishing high school and preparing him for college, because, you know, we also had him in was it AG or AP, whatever.
AP?
AP, yeah,
And not the AG.
Entertainment. Nah.
academically gifted, or but we had him in those courses to prepare him to, you know, probably, you know, do as little college as possible, because he's had, you know, had enough credits in high school and all. But then again, I think the summer of his junior year, we sent him to an architect camp at UNC Charlotte.
Now, was that what y'all chose, or he showed interest in that, and you was like, let's
Well,
check
we
out
asked
this
him, we asked him if there
Yeah.
was something that he would like to, say, McCain was kind of a very even kill with the ways. He'll go along with it because we had a dude actually his mom had him in rugby, trying rugby out. He's done, of course, soccer and a little bit of basketball early on, but then I pulled him away from that, and he went towards soccer, and then again later on in that with rugby, and then again in high school for wrestling. Somebody, totally kind of caught me off guard. But it was what he wanted to do and what he appreciated. And so then for the architecture piece, I think he probably just I think he missed some deadlines coming into school for the School of Architecture at UNC Charlotte, because that's where he ended up going briefly. But then he changed and wanted to do something different, because I saw that he kind of was hustling some graphics, graphic design type little, things online where he could kind of sell his little, the little things that he was doing. I'm like, okay, cool. If that's what you might, think you want to do, explore that. I say, and since that's something you kind of already know how to do, don't necessarily waste time and money on something that you can do, but pair it with something. If you go to school, pair it with marketing or whatever, to then be able to, sell on a different level as to what you're doing now. Is like a little hustle. And so he's still, now he's
In hindsight, though, let me ask you about that. Though, in hindsight, would you give that advice again?
What's that?
Like, say, hey, don't major in that. You already got some skills. Go major in something else to sell it. Would you give that advice again?
Yeah.
I wonder about that, because, see, that's back to you thinking about, this is how I would hustle that thing. You understand what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Like, I would go get that, as opposed to him immersing himself in the gift. Because sometimes the sales and all of that's gonna come.
He get that piece,
Yeah, he's
like, you know what else you're gonna need now that you've done this?
Yeah. I just wonder, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have done it. I just wonder about that, because there's something about immersing yourself in the craft. And a lot of those people that are artistic or have creative things, they don't necessarily know how to sell it right away. They end up getting with some people that tell them how to do it later. They really don't even like that part of it.
Correct.
Some of them never like that part of it. You know what I'm saying? But
and if they got to do that part of it, then I just ain't gonna do it.
Right.
Hey, yo, I
For
got
real.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what, I mean, it's no different than an artist.
That could happen.
A musician.
Yeah.
All they want to do is get on stage and perform.
Right.
All
got
they
a
want to
question.
do is get on stage and perform. But there is a business behind the show.
Right.
And sometimes that's why so many of them get robbed financially, because they don't handle the business behind it. My son played video games for a living. There is still a business behind the gaming business.
Right.
And he does not want to do that part of it at all.
Mhm.
All he want to do is play.
Right.
And so when we get into it, it's because I'm like, yo, you're dropping the ball when it comes to the business aspect of your profession.
Right.
I got
right.
a question for the group too.
All
A
right.
little bit late question. What's wrong with telling your kids what you want them to be or what they should be? And I'm gonna say this too.
Because you might be wrong.
Okay, I understand that. Okay,
You done messed up your life and their life.
but this is what I'm saying. This is where I'm coming from. When you have a background, you don't have generational wealth, right, from your family.
Right.
When your pathology is, granddaddy taught himself how to read and write. Grandma went to the 8th grade. Mama got pregnant, made it out of high school. You understand what I'm saying? We have very little wiggle room to take risks. We don't have that foundation. And so if someone said, listen, I want you to go to A&T and become an engineer. What's the story about Stafford? Remember Stafford, what made you become a doctor? Because my daddy said I'm going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And Stafford is a doctor. You feel
true.
what I'm saying?
But
So
I don't know.
what is
but
wrong
let me
with
say
that?
this. Let me say
Well,
this.
there's a big.
I haven't talked to Dr. Brown in a long time, but I don't know if he's happy.
Okay, but tell that story.
And the
though.
other
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
is, no, so it's a brother that's a physician, went to UVA medical school, and I asked him, how did you become a doctor? And my daddy told me I was gonna be a doctor, and he put me in medical program, after school programs instead of sports, and this and that, and it's something to that effect. But he said his dad basically told him what he was gonna be,
Right.
and he's as far as I know, still a successful physician down there in Tidewater, in the Tidewater area,
Right.
But this is what the thing. You know what the litmus test for me on that is? If you know what you want to do, I'm not gonna tell you what to do.
Right.
If
right,
you have
right.
no ideas and you like James said, but he's open to trying stuff, then I'm gonna tell you some things that based on my looking at your development that might interest you.
Right.
To me, that's the difference. You have no plan, then I'm gonna tell you what to do.
That's
Oh,
the
okay.
entire premise behind I
Mm.
got your plan B. You
Yeah.
come up with plan A.
Yeah,
Right.
That's
yeah,
the whole premise.
Okay.
And if you don't want me telling you what to do, you better come up with something.
yeah, right,
Because I'm gonna
right,
tell you what to do.
right, right,
If
right.
if,
Good.
if you just completely lost and don't know
Because
what
we
you're
not
gonna
gonna do nothing,
we not nothing
and
is
we
not
not
an
throwing
option.
money away.
Right. So
Right.
so if telling them what to do come first, it's a problem.
And
I think.
this is what I'm saying.
But if telling them what to do come after
They done
they
tried
don't know
something.
what to do,
Right.
ain't nothing wrong with
because
it.
you reached a level where Kari can be in his room and work on his craft, right?
Yes.
And we ain't grew up with having our own room. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we wouldn't have had that luxury even if we did have that technology. You feel me? So
That's
you've
very
reached
true.
a level where you can allow him to do that.
Absolutely.
So sometimes we want, hey man, I just want you to make, so like let's say Steph, man, I got a degree, I got a medical degree, boom, boom, doctorate. I don't want it no more. Guess what? Now you qualified to go do something else then. You know what? You ain't like it. You got these degrees. Now nothing.
But you
move
know
forward.
what though? I'm not gonna accept that as a good response because we didn't have our own room. But if it was a priority for me as a parent to get my child the experience they need to pursue that, I need to figure that out.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I need to go all out and figure that out because you going all out to get them the J's. You
Absolutely.
going all out to make sure they got everything else they need.
Yeah.
So why are we backing down from the challenge of finding the space to develop the gift?
all right. So that's
You
the
know what I'm
message. That's the
saying?
message
Yeah,
to the single
absolutely.
parent.
Yeah, because they still
Well,
play football or basketball
Yeah,
that
I
you
mean,
done paid
absolutely.
for.
Figure it
So,
out.
yeah.
They got the practice and all that stuff. You know, there are some people, you know, I saw this guy speaking and he was talking and he said, you know, people always tell you do what you love, do what you love. He said, you know, that only comes from rich guys
right.
who've already
Yeah.
made their money in the oil industry or already made their money, you know, in the coal mine somewhere, you know, and now they want to tell everybody coal mine and oil ain't what they love. They went and made hundreds of millions, billions of dollars doing that. And now they're giving that advice because they're in a position
But
to
you
say
know what?
that.
And that's what the whole problem is with living in this materialistic society where we place value on money over happiness.
And,
Because what
Right.
that guy should say, yeah, that's what rich guys tell him. Yeah, because they only care about money. But I don't care if you're gonna be happy making $30,000 at 50 years old, you just happy. Because what else is life besides happiness? At the end of the day, we can say, oh, but you need this and that. But the bottom line as a human being, if I'm not happy, life is crap.
man, you know, sometimes in
Great
this
point.
society, we admire and we hold up the achievers.
Right.
Right.
And we celebrate the achievers. And then we look down on the guy that just want to go to work, be a bartender, and come home and play his guitar.
Right.
We
right.
look down on that dude.
Right.
That dude is happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He taking care of himself. He playing his guitar at the local bar on weekends. He's a happy guy. That guy can be celebrated if that's what he wants to do with his life. And we as a society have to stop just only celebrating the achievers, the high-driven, go get it, you know, these people. No. It's other people to celebrate in this world.
In the words of the late great Biggie Smalls, more money, more problems.
Big facts.
And real
Yeah.
quick, my wife and I also thought about this too with Courtney. Had we celebrated his gifts in town, like in high school, this dude was creating and choreographing like some of the things that they do now on a big level of like fashion and music and everything. He was doing that in high school, yo. Just putting together and coordinating, making people having their little routines and everything.
So why didn't y'all? You don't know?
What did we say? What, we can't say that we didn't know, but
Did life just get
we just we didn't
Because we think we know what's best.
and we look back on it and say we didn't think to do that and promote that and celebrate that more to where he would go ahead and try to pursue that.
Because we
So,
still learning. We still make mistakes. We still messing up. You know what I mean? And we still learning and growing. And that's why we talk about
as
But
parents.
we
Yeah.
need to try to change that narrative, man, and try to let them pursue happiness, man. Because at the end of the day, I made and we all made hundreds of thousands of dollars over our career and doing whatever, right? And money is good and great, and a nice home is great. But at the end of the day, right now, all I want is some peace. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
you can't be at peace when you're not happy, man.
Yeah.
And I get it, John, from the perspective of people with limited resources and single moms and all of that. But still, man, if you, to Joaquin's point, if you put them on the right course, you can get out the way. If you find a way to let them pursue their happiness, all of that, you got to trust in the universe to reward them for their effort. Because ultimately it will. You know what I'm saying? And so it's somebody going to come and show up in their life to get them a pathway to attain what they want. And this happened for me time and time again. Like you always, if you committed to it, the universe yields. It's the law of abundance, right?
Yeah.
You know, and the law of attraction. If you put the effort in, you attract to yourself that which will propel you into what you want. You know, and that's critical, man. So any other final words as we wrap up on this?
I was going to say sometimes because we don't know how the thing works all the way out, we don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I want people to understand is stop trying to know the how. The how is irrelevant. Just start doing.
Just get up. Yeah.
Just start doing. If I say I want to be a Hollywood actor and I want to go to Hollywood, but if I'm like, well, how am I going to get my shot in the movies? You don't know. But guess what? The person that got the shot was in a restaurant and they met a casting director and then they got the opportunity. You can't plan to meet the casting director in the restaurant.
No.
That can't be a part of your plan.
Right.
And if that's what has to be a part of your plan for you to start doing something, you'll never do anything. So stop trying to know how. How ain't your business. Don't worry about how. The universe will conspire to make sure you get what you want.
The alchemist.
That's right.
Absolutely.
The universe will conspire to make sure you get what you want. Just start working. Just start doing. The how will take care of itself.
That's the fact. And that's the fear. And the last thing I'm going to say is from the time my sons were young until now, when they come to me with ideas, you know what I say? I believe you. I believe you can do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whatever it is. You know, our kids like, man, I'm trying to be on multiple properties. Yeah, I believe you.
God wouldn't give you the idea if he didn't give you the talent too.
That's a fact.
So you know, if he gave you the idea, he also gave you the talent to make it real.
That's right.
And the last thing, but not least, young people, stop measuring your success with money. Because when you're doing and you on your journey, the money is the last thing to come. Money is the last thing to come.
Right.
Just commit yourself to being excellent at whatever it is you're doing. If you commit yourself to being excellent at whatever it is you're doing, the money will come. But the money is the last thing to show up. And so many times people are on the verge of success, but they step away from it because they ain't making no money. And that's a big mistake. Just stick with it. The money will come.
And have a faith, the grain of a mustard seed, and then go to the store and buy some mustard seeds and look how small they are.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Big
the
facts.
faith of a grain of a mustard seed. You can't even pick up a mustard seed in your fingers. You need something to pick it up with. That's how small it is. But this is the B2m Crew podcast, chopping it up about developing the gifts and talents in young people, broadcasting live from the Code Building in downtown Charlottesville. Wonderful facility. Come check it out. Brought to you also by Win Productions down in Atlanta. Brand new studio about to open up. And this just five brothers been knowing each other since we was jits. Chopping it up, man, and letting you into our world. Joaquin, take us out of here, man.
In the words of the great Frederick Douglass, it is easier to raise strong children than to repair broken men. Peace.
Yeah.
And I won't stop until I'm winning. I'ma show them how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute. And I won't stop until I'm winning. They don't want me in the office cause I tell